So hello, everyone. Welcome back to Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic, sponsored by Jewish Live / Judaism Unbound. Wonderful podcast, highly recommend it. Today, after a break of a couple of weeks, we are back to focus on the soul trait of patience. It's one that most people I know can really use some work on, myself included. So we will begin, as we always do, with a short meditation. So please relax and close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. Inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And as thoughts should come into your head, just observe them and let them pass. Like watching a car move past on the road. We want to be like a good innkeeper that welcomes in the guest and then watches the guests leave when they're done. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema. Listen. And Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. And Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. I see we've been joined by Eileen, and Joanne, and Sarah. And it looks like we have Susan, who's logging in as well. Ooh, Stephanie's coming on board. Wonderful. Okay, well, we will begin, and I'm not going to put up the slide because the question is pretty simple. And the question is, where does your patience get tested? You know, some people, it's in traffic. Other times it is, you know, when people don't listen to them or don't respond, and traffic doesn't bother them at all. I know for me, my patience got tested a couple of times on Monday. And for those of you who were here early, I said, oh, I didn't remember what I was going to talk about, but now I remember. So thank you, Wendy, said I would remember at the right time. On Monday, so I flew home on Sunday. And then on Monday, I had, actually it was Tuesday, but I had a eye doctor's appointment in the morning. There's a new doctor. I went, walked in for my appointment, and they said, oh, sorry, we just called you a minute ago. The doctor is homesick today and she can't see you. So I was a little miffed that they hadn't called me earlier. And I said, when can you next see me? And it wasn't until the end of August. So I was like, geez, you know, I'm a new patient. You know, this isn't great. And then I was like, then I remembered, I was like, okay, you know, these are really difficult times with COVID and all kinds of other things that people are dealing with. So, you know, we just have to, you know, I have to kind of maintain, you know, I have to be patient. I just kind of have to put up with it and just deal with it. And, you know, because there's nothing I can do. I could go find a different eye doctor and probably have another really long wait. And it was a pain finding this one who came well recommended. So I'll share a couple more stories later in the while we are meeting today, but I'd like to hear from you. What are some of the circumstances that test your patience? Martin.
Yes, thank you, Greg. When I hire somebody and then they do the work not to my standard, I get my first response is to get pretty impatient with it. So.
Great, thank you. Marianne.
I notice when I'm going from one activity to another, like if I have to drive from one place to another, I get very impatient with the transitions. So I just try to be, I've been trying to be, patience to me, I think means being more in the present moment. Instead of thinking about where I'm trying to get and what's coming next. And it also, when I'm driving, and today I was caught behind a very slow vehicle, and I just like took a breath and just tried to notice my surroundings. So that's what I did.
Great, thank you. Wonderful contrast between kind of getting caught up in the future, where you would like to be, versus just kind of remaining present and noticing kind of what's going on. Anyone else? Where does your patience get tested? Yes, Nancy.
Yeah, I'm not sure really how to articulate this, but it's people. I mean, nobody knows what a particular person is going through. And I guess I'm kind of like boom, 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 you know, like I get back to people, I'm kind of on the ball, all this kind of stuff. And I realize that other people aren't. And they just go to their own, what's that saying? Beat their own drum. I don't know. But, you know, I have to wait, and it's very difficult. I went through a difficult 2 months in May and June of adopting a dog that did not work out. And I had to deal with that whole patience of give it time, give it time. And finally, it was like my husband said that you need to do something drastic now. You need to take it back or something's got to happen. And it was a very difficult decision. People don't know my friends didn't know what I was going through. And so when people don't know what you're going through, they can interpret your being as something that's not even there. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think for me, I need to be patient in terms of other people and their life and not expect so much. And even when I gave notice that I had to return the dog, I had to be patient for 5 more days of putting up with the dog before I took her back. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's dealing with your own patience, understanding that somebody else is going through something too, and give it grace.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, that certainly does resonate with me, and I saw other people nodding as well. So it made sense to some of us, at least. Anyone else care to share where your patience gets tested? Yes, Sarah.
My patience got tested this week on Monday. I was prepared for a court hearing that I had to prepare documents, and was, you know, it was quite a bit of work. I found out late about the date change. I found out by accident the court date had changed. I looked on the court calendar and saw last week that it was on there, and the morning of the hearing, I got a call that said, "Have you left yet?" And I said, "No, but I'm about to." And she said, "They've taken the case off the docket." And I just dug my heels in and said, "I'm coming." And I went to the courthouse, and I, just waited to see if my husband and his attorney would show up, and they did. And the DA was there, and they got the case listed on the docket, and it turned out that what I thought the case was about for that day. I thought it was going to be the final sentencing. It was not. It was something different. And it's very hard to be patient with incompetence in the legal system. But I still got to do what I needed to do in terms of turning in paperwork and reading a victim impact statement and talking with the DA yesterday. And I feel a lot better, but I mean, I wasn't very patient. I really pushed it on Monday because the victim advocate was ready to just like let it not happen. And I had so much anticipation prior to this event that I just was not willing to do it. And I pushed it. I really pushed it. And it worked. You know, I mean, so I don't know, you know, there's those two ends of the continuum of doing too little or doing too much. And I definitely pushed it and didn't sit back and accept that, you know, things had changed, because I just felt it was so incompetent and so unfair. And for some reason, even at my age, I still think life is fair. And I still think that the criminal justice system should work correctly, and it doesn't. So that was my
Thank you.
experience. Yeah, with patience.
Thank you, Sarah. You know, we're listening with an open heart, and I think your story is a great illustration of patience doesn't mean waiting and waiting and waiting. Sometimes the proper way to handle the challenge is to not be patient and to say, no, you know, we're doing this. You know, this has to move forward today. So, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. And as I say, we're all listening with an open heart. So I see Wendy and then Joanne.
Hi guys. Excuse me because my brain's not working real well today. I have COVID. Yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna be okay. Yeah, we came back from San Jose and on 4th of July, which was supposed to be the spike day. So I guess we're right in there. And my husband tested positive for COVID. So he's still testing positive and I'm still testing negative, but I don't know why. So that's not, but what I'm impatient with myself. If I know that I can do something, especially if I've done it before, and then I am either called on to do it or I'm trying to do it and I fail for some reason or I can't get it done, I get very impatient with myself. I think it's a test of humility, because why do I think that I can do it this time just because I did it last time? And so I kind of have learned about that. And another thing that makes me impatient is that if I'm trying to get my point across to somebody, and not that they're not getting it, but that I'm just not quite able to get my point across. So again, I think that has to do with humility. So I think I have to like work on the humility thing. Just because I can do it once doesn't mean I can do it again. And the thing that really gets to me mostly is when someone endangers somebody else. I don't know if that's really losing patience or not, but I will get loud if I need to when somebody is going to, get injured. So with Greg, with your eye doctor thing, we came back, and of course, because of having COVID, we had to cancel several medical appointments. And then my husband's doctor called him, our care protector called him and said she was not seeing him anymore and cut him off from having, he gets these shots every 2 weeks. And I just lost it. I think partly maybe because I wasn't feeling good, but also because like you, Sarah, like the medical profession, the legal profession can use our patience and our help for sure. So
Yeah.
that's my patient quote, I think.
Well, thank you, Wendy, and we're wishing you and your husband, strength and recovery, and
Yeah.
a great illustration of how these different cell traits interact with one another, and what might be a symptom of coming across as impatience. Oh, maybe the underlying issue is related to humility
Mhm.
or something else. So we'll hear from Joanne, and then maybe we'll take it a little bit deeper.
Okay, so I don't know how far I want to go into this right now, but I was a patient, an inpatient at Montefiore Hospital the July 4th weekend, and they have done some tests. Like Friday night, I was admitted, and they did a test, preliminary CT scan, no, MRI with contrast, and then I had to wait until Tuesday because of July 4th was Monday, and like they're very short staffed, and I had to wait, until they had the right people in the right place to get a biopsy and a stent and the whole 9 yards. And maybe I'll talk about it later or offline. But I was, I had no choice. I had to be there, and they did take good care of me, and so I appreciated that. But that was hard waiting, and then it's like another week till they get the results, and I'm seeing a doctor from them on Monday, and of course, I know that it's probably not a good diagnosis, but I don't know it for 100%, but probably 99%, and then I have to figure, we'll talk about my treatment plan with my sister-in-law is coming, and my son and daughter-in-law, so to speak, are calling in. And so all of this takes time, and I'm trying to be patient, and it's almost here. Then I'll know what I'm doing in the future. But I was very angry I had, talking about trying to take things in your own hands. So I had made an appointment with a GI doctor because I couldn't get the ones that I knew when I started having trouble back in April. And I think I got an appointment for May, but somebody canceled. But this guy, he did the test that showed where the problem was, but then he didn't follow through. And so I, just like really angry with him. And I needed to find out something from his practice because I needed to talk to a GI person, and they asked, well, the nurse practitioner is here. Can she call you? I said, yes, because often I find that nurse practitioners or nurses in general are much more with it than the doctors are. And so she gave me the answer I needed, and that's it. I'm not seeing him anymore. And I'll let you know what happens.
Well,
It's
thank
very
you,
trying.
Joanne. Again, we're listening with an open heart. We're all sending you strength and
Thank you.
energy for healing to, to kind of manage what comes ahead. And, I think one of it's sort of amazing. Everybody's brought up a different element of patience. And I think Joanne brings up one of the most important elements, which I don't think was on the slides today, but I'm going to talk about it because patience isn't the ability to remain calm. That's fine to remain calm, but sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it isn't appropriate. But that's the whole calmness thing is equanimity. Patience is about being able to endure a difficult situation, without losing your cool, and to just, patience has been called kind of a gift from the divine, when we don't have any control over anything else, like in Joanne's story or like in my story, where it's like, hey, the doctor's home sick. That's it. I could scream at the poor receptionist, or I could reschedule. That's it. And so patience is kind of what helps us kind of get through that challenging that challenge. And as we've seen, sometimes that's kind of the appropriate, okay, I'm gonna, just kind of get through and wait this one out. And other times it's like, no, unfortunately, the dog needs to go back. No, I need to have my court case taken care of today. And so it's really, this practice is all about, helping each of us stay in the moment and figure out what the right solution is for us at that particular time. Because there's no one size fits all, especially for things like patience. So let's, we touched on, let me see how I can do this. I'm going to talk through this without discussion because I want to, I think we made reference to this, that having too little patience can lead to you to feel angry or frustrated, and too much patience can lead one to be inactive or fatalistic. And if we're exercising too much patience, then maybe we're staying in a negative situation when we really shouldn't be. And it could be a minor negative situation, it could be a major one. I mean, again, we each need to figure that out. But it is very much not, this is, I think, one of the best illustrations of how Mussar is different from other sorts of practices, where it's not about being as patient as possible. It's about having that right level of patience. And the mantra I suggest is, this too shall pass, and I have the strength to get by until it does. So maybe we'll just take a comment or two about that mantra. This too shall pass, and I have the strength to get by until it does. So how does that speak to you or not speak to you? Marianne.
Yeah, I think I changed it to, I have the strength to manage it until I get past, because that makes me feel more empowered than get by. So I changed it just for me.
Oh, I love that. That's a great, I love that change. Thank you. We'll try to go a little speed round this time. So Joanne?
Yeah, I think, again, it's like stuff that's within my control that I can do something about. I don't have to be so patient if there's something I can do about it. But if it's dependent on other people or things, then, I mean, sometimes you can like look into it and see if, but some things just cannot be sped up, and you have to just be patient. And it doesn't have anything to do with you, Yeah. So
Thank you, Joanne.
you're welcome.
Christo, nice to see you.
The thing about this too shall pass, my Rabbi Deborah Goldman has told me that through a lot of my struggles, including, as you might notice, a medical negligence a couple weeks ago that's affected my eyesight. So I only just have a question. My question is, does it have to feel like a kidney stone in the shape of a grass burr, or can it be a little more smooth, please? And yes, my tongue is as sharp as ever, my teacher. So that's why I'm being careful with my language while I'm in here.
God, I wish it could be smooth. I wish we could all just smooth out the edges, but unfortunately, that is not what the world has in store for us sometimes. But I think we can draw strength from community, draw strength from others, have people there with us to kind of hold our hand and help us through, those moments.
At least I can still drive in the daytime. I can still mostly function with what I was able to do, but it's just, I'm afraid to respond a lot of times, but thankfully I have some good books to help guide me along on how to react to certain situations.
Well, we're listening with an open heart, Christo, and sending you thoughts and energy, and strength and healing, to help you manage through. What was that phrase, Marianne? To help you manage through, the current challenge. Let's see, was it Frank? Or
Yeah, when I have the presence of mind, and I've been aware of this for a long time, I kind of calculate, can I do anything about it? And if I cannot, I say to myself, wow, I have some time to just be, because there's such little time sometimes just being. So I actually look at it as a gift of time. I don't go there all the time, but I go there often, and that's been very helpful.
that is a wonderful outlook, and I've had the presence of mind to do that as well. One of the other times my patience was challenged. So the same day that I went to the eye doctor, I also had a regular doctor's appointment, and I made the appointment online, and I showed up and they didn't have me in the system. And so I kind of started to push, and I was like, all right, is this where I dig in and I really push and I demand to be seen? And I was like, no, this is not the time to do that. It isn't like, if it was an urgent situation, I'd go to urgent care. So I was annoyed, but I stayed as polite as I could. And then then she rescheduled me for the next day. And the next day I had an hour and a half wait before I could see the doctor. And a lot of that was in the room. And my phone was running out of juice. And that's when I really needed to say, wow, I've been wanting to start my meditation again. This is the perfect time. But I didn't think of that until like 30 seconds before the doctor walked in. So if I'd started meditating after 5 minutes, probably I would have been in and out of there in a snap. So it's really, we all do this as a practice to be in that state so that when it happens, we can say, all right, what a gift of time. How cool is this? All right, we have Wendy and then Harry.
Just going to say this is perfect. Thank you for this mantra. I'll just take it to my husband and change the I to we, since we're both. Thank you.
Harry.
Yes, when I think of patience or impatience, I think of it as a symptom of being anxious. What are you anxious about? And when you think of it that way, as an anxious response, you say, well, it's not, what am I anxious about? It's not a big deal. So think about that this impatience is a symptom of some sort of anxiety that's created. And I think it's easier to address it when you know it's an anxiety, and it's displayed as impatience. So when you're impatient, just say, what am I anxious about? And is it a big deal? And then you say, oh, it's not a big deal. And hopefully that calms you down.
Thank you,
if
Harry.
it is a big deal, then you really become impatient.
Thank you. Stephanie.
Since there's been a lot of talk about eyes today, I want to also bring up the fact that I have eye surgery coming up, and I have been, just like Harry was explaining, almost to a T, I became so anxious about every single step of the process, making appointments, getting a couple of doctors, telling me what they recommended. And I was very impatient trying to get appointments. Sometimes it would be 2 and 3 weeks before I could see an eye doctor. And then I started to fret over what's going to happen when I have the actual surgery and I have any complications. Is there going to be any way to get through that? So I really worked myself up to a frenzy with getting frustrated about the medical profession and not getting appointments in a timely manner. And I realized, you know what, there's nothing I can do, and I'm just going to have to figure out a way to manage that. And I love what you said about, having the strength to just get through it. I was put on a wait list for the surgery, and I thought, great, it'll come. I'll just, deal with it. Well, I realized that a wait list doesn't really mean anything. There's no specific date. So I could be waiting on a wait list forever. And then I finally, like Harry was saying, how do you handle that? It's the anxiety. So I got up the nerve to call and spoke to a scheduler, and they said, yes, you are on a wait list, but how about we make an appointment? And I said, yes, let's make an appointment. By that time, I was just so impatient that I would welcome, even if they said, we'll do the surgery tomorrow, I probably would have been okay with that. But now I have a date. I know that it's in September. I can plan. I'm still very scared about it, but there's a lot about having some information and knowing that it will be taken care of, as opposed to being in this limbo and not knowing. And I felt a little bit of comfort, but it was really making me anxious not knowing.
Yeah.
So thank you, Harry, for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I'm listening with an open heart. A lot going on in the community today. A lot of people are really going through stuff. And, again, Stephanie, that's a great example of deciding, okay, I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm going to take some action. And that's an important part of the working to have patience in balance. Okay, so it's a good segue to this reading. So may I have a volunteer to unmute? And I can't see very many of you, so someone, oops. We're going to be talking about this, and then we're going to be using this as a jump off into our breakout groups.
I'll read.
Wait, who is this?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, great.
When patience turns to something else, others' lack of trust in us, their doubts, and their anxieties repeatedly paralyze both them and us. We react with anger, impatience, and disappointment. At other times, our own anxieties are paralyzing us, leading us to lose trust in ourselves and others. We give up, the hopeless opposite of being patient. Rabbi Sonia K. Pills, the Mussar Torah commentary. What is
Great.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you. Yes, and then the question is, what is? I'm going to copy this into the chat. But the question is, what is the difference between kind of being patient and giving up? Yes, Lita.
I think it's just hope. You've given up your hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Given up hope. I love that. Any other thoughts? Well, that's a good, okay. Marianne and then Krista.
I was going to say that you've given up hope, but that you given up the idea or the belief that you could actually influence something.
Yeah. So maybe giving up an idea that you could influence something. Awesome. Krista, what are your thoughts?
I think the part is when you get to the point of giving up, it's in most of my experiences, and anybody here, correct me if I'm wrong, you get to the point where you don't care anymore. So if you don't care anymore, you don't really have the motivation, and in many ways, this has happened to me, I've somewhat convinced myself that something that I've been trying for so long after so many attempts, it's just not meant to happen. More like, okay, God saying no, or God, are you screaming? Never. I'm feeling that I get sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you. Martin, what do you think?
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm getting impatient about something, as long as I have a belief that there's going to be a positive outcome, or maybe income, a positive outcome to the situation, that means I'm not giving up.
Yeah, it's good to have, hope and think for a positive outcome. But one thing that strikes me is, sometimes it's okay to move on. It's sort of like, I'm not going to wait anymore. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm giving up or I'm quitting. It's just like, you know what, I'm gonna move on. Like I've had friends where we've been friends for a long time, but there's been, I was always the one who was reaching out, and sometimes when I would reach out, they wouldn't respond to me, and then they would sort of reappear months later. And I finally was like, I really like this person, but I'm not going to put any more effort into the relationship, because I can't count on this person if I really need them and I really like them. And if they showed up, I would be more than happy to interact with them. But it didn't feel like giving up to me. It felt like it was just moving on. And maybe I still do have some hope, but I'm not kind of efforting, I'm not putting energy into it.
Yeah, could that be analogous to don't beat a dead horse?
Perhaps. We'll hear from Joanne, and then we'll go into, and then Harry, and then we'll go into breakout groups. Joanne, please remember to unmute.
Okay, so I don't think giving up, I mean, I think it's realistic sometimes to give up on others if they're not, responding or, not showing any interest in following up with you. And then, but I think giving up on yourself is really bad. It's different it's certainly not patience. And I don't think God's going to say no if it's something you really want, but you have to put the work in it and see if you can make it happen. And maybe it's not going to happen, but maybe it will. And I don't know if patience has anything to do with that. Giving up is just like, so the heck with the whole thing, kind of. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, and patience also has like and one other thing to add to what you said is also, it's like, how much are you like being mindful about it? Is it just like, well, I'm going to go with the flow and whatever, this isn't happening, versus, I'm going to think about it and decide, am I going to wait? Am I going to not wait? But I have another question sort of related to this. So in the breakout rooms, so Rabbi Piltz writes about becoming indecisive from two different sources: others' lack of trust in us or our own anxieties. And being indecisive is, it's a cousin of patience, or I don't know. I just thought this was really an interesting take on things. So maybe what's more likely to trip you up, when other people don't trust you, or other people are not showing faith in you, or kind of your own anxieties. And please remember, we're not here to give advice. We're just kind of listening, and, thank you for sharing, and that sort of thing is a good, or I'm listening to you. These are all kind of good answers. And also, don't share anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing, just share on whatever level works for you. Okay, so the questions are in the chat. The rooms are open. And away we go. Rita, do you see the join chat room? Bonnie, are you gonna join the chat? Well, for those of you who are streaming, this is where we end our streaming for the week. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Jewish Live. And please stop by the American Mussar website, where you can sign up for our email list, or go to the americanmussar.com YouTube channel, and you can watch the full recording of this and any of our other gatherings over the past few years. Thanks so much. Bye. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. So would anyone care to share any insights that you had? All right, Martin, you were raring to go. If you could remember to unmute, please.
I'm now unmuted. Marjorie and I had a great conversation about this, the question about patients inaction based on others not trusting us, or our own interior anxieties. And one of the comments I made was that, well, if I'm being inactive based on others not trusting me, actually that is my anxiety. So it all goes back to personal anxiety. So that's my conclusion about that particular question. So.
Great. So if you're made anxious by other people not trusting you, then you're kind of in the soup.
Yeah, it's still my own anxiety. So it seems like it's always my anxiety. Yeah.
Well, it all, yeah, it is ultimately, our journey, and for us to figure it out. And anyone else have anything they care to share or comment on? Well, that is okay. I have something really interesting, which maybe can be helpful for us, since many of us are feeling some patience challenges. This is from a book called Pele Yoetz by Eliezer Papo. It was written in the 19th century. It's a great Mussar book with several hundred essays about a variety of different soul traits and situations. It was very popular, and it was published in Vienna, but actually in the Turkish Jewish community, this was a very popular book. And what Papo wrote was that the entire world understands that patience is very good, but people say, who is the person that can bear insult? And I would say insult can be like someone insulting you, or it could be just like some kind of challenge, a challenging situation. Like when I showed up and, hey, sorry, no eye doctor for you. It is proper for a person to fortify themselves with great courage and strength. Everything which a person desires, they can achieve with divine assistance. So we may have different views. I'm sure we all have different views of kind of the divinity or what or if the divinity might be. But is there a way that we can get sort of what is the point that he's making, and do you kind of buy into that? Yes, Marjorie.
The closest that I can come to this would be when I'm impatient with, like, for example, I'm running late and I'm impatient with everybody else around me, with the cars that aren't moving, with whatever the situation is. I have to be able to look into it at myself and say, it's your fault. If you left 3 minutes earlier, you'd be on time. And by looking at myself gather my own strength, that to me is a little bit of divine intervention. Like I gather strength from knowing that I have a backup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
having a backup, whether it's internal resources or something greater, it can be a source of strength.
It's a great, it's like, okay, take responsibility for your own actions and just, and breathe through it. It's like connect, don't go crazy. It's not such a gunsa-gadilla, right? So that's my take on that.
Great, thank you. Well, I'll share one more little anecdote and then we'll do then we'll look at some actions and then we'll close. But there's a teaching that the divine presence of the Shekhinah flees from anger. And so I realized that they're like opposite ends of the spectrum. And if the divine presence flees from anger, then anger cannot abide the divine presence. So I wrote a little song to the tune of a spoonful of sugar, which is focus on the divine presence to keep the anger away, et cetera, et cetera. And then focus on the divine presence to keep the anger away in the most holy way. And I was really pissed off at someone this week at something that happened. And I was so mad. And then I remembered the song and I started singing it. And I did start feeling better because I do think it kind of opened up the divine presence for whatever that might mean. And it's like, I'm not like a huge Mary Poppins fan, but that little song really, really does the trick for me. Last thing we're going to do before our closing meditation is a reminder of the mantra, and also take a moment to just read through these action steps and see if there's something that resonates from you. These come from the back of the chapter, I think, chapter 6 in the book. But meditating, singing, okay, there we go. Meditating on the image of a patient person. And finding ways also to practice patience when you're not kind of in that moment of being triggered. Like I'm in the grocery store, I'm gonna stand in a longer line. I mean, it's like, I'm gonna really like exercise my patience muscles so that when, that doctor's appointment is not when I expect it to be, I'll be a little bit more resilient and able to cope. So friends, please close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Let us all focus on contributing a little bit of energy to the group that we might share and draw upon for strength and healing. Some of us need healing of the body. Some of us need healing of the spirit. Some of us may have a little bit extra to contribute. So we're feeling okay right now. Just feel the warmth and the presence and the energy of this community today. May it give you strength and comfort to manage until the situation has moved to the next stage. Friends, thank you so much for being here. We will be back again next week to go through our second week of patience. I can't wait for it to happen.
Thank you so much for those
I
private
look forward
messages.
to seeing you then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
very
Greg.
welcome.